Hi, I'm Sherry Fieser from the Trome Memorial Library in East Berlin, part of Adams County Library System. Here with you today for some of our Aesop's Fables. This is Aesop 10. And this first one is The Wolf and the Ass. An ass was feeding in a pasture near a wood when he saw a wolf lurking in the shadows along the hedge. He easily guessed what the wolf had in mind and thought of a plan to save himself. So he pretended he was lame and began to hobble painfully. And when the wolf came up, he asked the ass what had made him lame, and the ass replied that he had stepped on a sharp thorn. "Please pull it out," he pleaded, groaning as if in pain. "If you do not, it might stick in your throat when you eat me." The wolf saw the wisdom of that advice, for he wanted to enjoy his meal without any danger of choking. So the ass lifted up his foot, and the wolf began to search very closely and carefully for that thorn. Just then the ass kicked him with all his might, tumbling the wolf a dozen paces away. And while the wolf was getting very slowly and painfully to his feet, the ass galloped away safely. "Serves me right," growled the wolf as he crept into the bushes. "I'm a butcher by trade, not a doctor." Stick to your trade. The next one is The Monkey and the Cat. Once upon a time, a cat and a monkey lived as pets in the same house. They were great friends and were constantly in all sorts of mischief together. What they seemed to think of more than anything else was to get something to eat, and it did not matter much to them how they got it. One day they were sitting by the fire watching some chestnuts roasting on the hearth. How to get them was the question. "I would gladly get them," said the cunning monkey, "but you are much more skillful at such things than I am. Pull them out and I'll divide them between us." Pussy stretched out her paw very carefully, pushing aside some of the cinders, and drew back her paw very quickly. Then she tried it again, this time pulling a chestnut half out of the fire. A third time she drew out the chestnut. This performance she went through several times, each time singeing her paw severely. As fast as she pulled the chestnuts out of the fire, the monkey ate them. Now the master came in, and away scampered the rascals. Mistress Cat, with a burnt paw and no chestnuts from that time on, they say, she contented herself with mice and rats and had little to do with Sir Monkey. The flatterer seeks some benefit to her expense. The next one is The Dogs and the Fox. Some dogs found a skin of a lion and furiously began to tear it with their teeth. A fox chanced to see them and laughed scornfully. "If that lion had been alive," he said, "it would have been a very different story. He would have made you feel how much sharper his claws are than your teeth. It is easy and also contemptible to kick a man that is down." The next one is The Dogs and the Hides. Some hungry dogs saw a number of hides in the bottom of a stream where the tanner had put them to soak. A fine hide makes an excellent meal for a hungry dog, but the water was deep and the dogs could not reach the hides from the bank. So they held a council and decided that the very best thing to do was to drink up all the river. All fell to lapping up the water as fast as they could, but though they drank and drank until one after another, all of them had burst with drinking, still for all their efforts, the water in the river remained high as ever. Do not try to do impossible things. The next one is The Rabbit, the Weasel, and the Cat. A rabbit left his home one day for dinner of clover, but he forgot to latch the door of the house, and while he was gone, a weasel walked in and calmly made himself at home. When the rabbit returned, there was the weasel's nose sticking out of the rabbit's own doorway, sniffing the fine air. The rabbit was quite angry for a rabbit and requested the weasel to move out, but the weasel was perfectly content. He was settled down for good. A wise old cat heard the dispute and offered to settle it. "Come close to me," said the cat. "I am very deaf, but put your mouths close to my ear while you tell me these facts." The unsuspecting pair did as they were told, and in an instant the cat had them under her claws. No one could deny that the dispute had been definitely settled. The strong are apt to settle questions to their own advantage. The next one is the bear and the bees. A bear roamed in the woods in search of berries, happened on a fallen tree in which a swarm of bees had stored their honey. The bear began to nose around the log very carefully to find out if the bees were at home. Just then, one of the swarm came home from the clover field with a load of sweets. Guessing what the bear was after, the bee flew at him, stung him sharply, and then disappeared into the hollow log. The bear lost his temper in an instant and sprang upon that log, tooth and claw, to destroy that nest. But this only brought out the whole swarm. The poor bear had to take to his heels, and he was able to save himself only by diving into a pool of water. It is wiser to bear a single injury in silence than to provoke 1,000 by flying into a rage. And the last one for today, the fox and the leopard. A fox and a leopard, resting lazily after a generous dinner, amused themselves by disputing about their good looks. The leopard was very proud of his glossy, spotted coat and made disdainful remarks about the fox, whose appearance he declared was quite ordinary. The fox prided himself on his fine bushy tail and with its tip of white, but he was wise enough to see that he could not rival the leopard in looks. Still, he kept up a flow of sarcastic talk just to exercise his wits and to have the fun of disputing. The leopard was about to lose his temper when the fox got up, yawning lazily. You may have a very smart coat," he said, but you would be a great deal better off if you had a little more smartness inside your head and less on your ribs, the way I am. That's what I call real beauty. A fine coat is not always an indication of an attractive mind. And that's the end of our fables for today. Thanks for joining me.